Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me here today on this live webinar from my health clinic in beautiful Ojai, California. Couldn't be a better place to do a talk on understanding the power of herbs and how they can help us in our lives when we're sitting in this wonderful clinic here where we have thousands of herbs all around us. And I'm meeting clients and patients daily and working from both Western herbs, Indian herbs, and even some Chinese herbs, and even some South American herbs here that we're using to help people address almost every health condition there is. And, like the old saying goes, there's nothing new under the sun. And in fact, most of the herbal remedies that we're using here, particularly in Ayurveda, are very ancient and old remedies that have been around more than hundreds of years, in fact, thousands of years, because they formulated these formulas years ago, and they understood and studied these herbs thousands of years ago. And it took them thousands and thousands of years to accumulate this knowledge. In fact, every indigenous civilization, whether it was in South America or the Native American Indians or the South Indians, or Chinese, they all were using plants, minerals, and even some animal products like bones to treat various health conditions for thousands and thousands of years. And it was this accumulated knowledge that they accumulated over an extended period of time by observing the animals, because the animals also had this knowledge from maybe millions of years of learning what plants help them in certain conditions, and also by just trial and error and tasting the herbs and experiencing the herbs and learning to look at the herbs themselves and communicate with the herbs and feel what are the properties and actions of this particular plant. And it was the sages and very wise people were at this level of consciousness and awareness of the attributes and qualities of plants just by looking at them, smelling them, communicating with them, and tasting them, and then using them medicinally. And this knowledge accumulated over thousands and thousands of years to eventually they were able to document what the uses of these herbs were, like we see in Chinese medicine. There's thousands of herbs that are documented. Indian Ayurvedic medicine, also thousands of herbs that are documented. And then over time, they formed formulas for particular types of conditions that they've used. And in fact, many of the formulas Ayurvedic practitioners and doctors are using today are still thousands of years old and still working to this day. For example, I think many of you may have heard of something like Chawan Prash. It's a jam, and you can buy it right in the health food store. It says herbal supplement. And that was made by a man some over 1,000 years ago named Chawan. His name's right still on there. He's a famous guy. And Prash means jam. So it's Chawan's Prash, his jam that he made to help support his immunity and his health when he was an old man. And it became very popular in his village. And then it spread from village to village. And then it spread throughout India, and other Ayurvedic practitioners used it. And now you can buy it in Whole Foods and most health food stores. So this is how herbs have come to us over time. I would say that herbalism and the study of herbs is probably one of the greatest accomplishments of humankind. That includes, I didn't say mankind, I said humankind, because a lot of the ancient herbalists were women, and even the modern herbalists in the past 100 years were women. And there's been great contributions all through time by different herbalists in documenting and using herbs. So they're anything but alternative. In fact, we could just call them traditional and medicine, which I think is a good name. And so first I want to cover some of the common myths of taking herbs or using herbs. A lot of people think that herbs are as similar as taking medicine or pharmaceuticals. And it's very important to understand the differences. First of all, herbs don't have negative side effects because they are organic material made from plants, some from animal products, and minerals. Mostly taken from leaves, roots, stems, bark, and prepared in different manners, which we're going to cover. And so, only if they're taken in very wrong doses or in wrong ways could you have some adverse effects. So first of all, you don't have to be as concerned about negative side effects. In fact, most herbs have many positive side effects. We may have a formula that says it's good for memory, but it's probably helping also with circulation. We may have a herbal formula that's good for, say, clearing the bowels and keeping the bowels going, but it's probably helping to clear the kidneys or improve the lymphatic system as well. We have herbs that are made for building the bones, but they're also very good at building other tissue in the body as well, because all herbs have some level of vitamins and minerals in them. So, for example, we even have a tea called vitamin mineral tea, and we can look at the ingredients there. First one is alfalfa, which many horses are living off of alfalfa and grass. Peppermint for flavor, nettle, which is full of vitamins and minerals, horsetail, which we know has calcium in it, and then there's hibiscus, has high in vitamin C, and then also we put in some other herbs for taste, like stevia, cardamom, cinnamon for circulation. So there we have it, showing that herbs not only have medicinal actions, which we're going to talk about different types of medicinal actions which herbs have, but they have nutrients and vitamins in them. So in fact, they're far superior than, say, just having water. In fact, this tea called vitamin mineral tea, we give it for elderly people, we give it to young children, it tastes good, and it's far more nutritious than just drinking water all day, and actually tastes better, and you have children much more happy to be drinking a kind of a peppermint sweet tea with stevia in it than just a glass of water. So herbs are helping both on a nutritional level, and they have certain actions on the body that they can help to improve certain systems in the body. They can support certain tissue in the body. They can support and cleanse or detoxify certain organs in the body. So there are many side benefits of taking every single herb, more than just usually what's on the label. And medicine, of course, tends to be more like blocking, like beta blockers, or inhibiting, like uptake inhibitors, or interfering with metabolic or biochemical actions in the body. Well, herbs, on the other hand, or herbal formulas, are more working on improving metabolism, supporting different tissues in the body, improving the certain systems in the body, whether it's respiratory system, circulatory system, and also, of course, helping the body to achieve homeostasis in general, and supporting the body. So all in a very positive manner, these herbs are working. And in fact, many herbs are just like food. We have many herbs that are for nervines, they're for the nervous system. And, when we take them, we feel calm, we feel more relaxed, we deal with stress better. But in fact, in Ayurvedic terms, since these are just plants anyway, ground up and made into a powder or put into a tea form, you're basically feeding your nervous system. So if you're anxious and stressed out, your nerves you're like hungry, like a crying baby. Oh, I'm stressed, I'm worried. And then you take the herbal tea, maybe like a relaxing tea here. We can see many nervines there: lemon balm, skullcap, catnip, motherwort, little lavender, and oat straw. Oats are very good to support the nervous system. And we know they have a lot of minerals and calcium and magnesium in them, which, modern science now has shown helps the nervous system. And a little rosemary and cinnamon for circulation to help it move around. So what those herbs are doing, like oat straw in particular, is feeding the nerves. So instead of the crying baby, oh, I'm hungry, oh, I'm worried, then you have the tea, and it's like feeding the nerves, and the nerves like, that we like that oat straw. That tastes good. Now we're not crying anymore. So it's not harming the nervous system or dulling out your nerves. Even the analgesic herbs are not cutting off your pain receptor sites or stopping you from feeling pain. They're working at a much more gentler level. So this is important to understand. And that they're like food, and some of these herbs are very good for certain organs for the body. They like the liver, like certain bitter herbs, the fat tissue and the bones and the muscles. They like kind of sweet and building herbs. And certain, just like there's certain foods that are good for building blood, like carrots and beets and leafy greens. They build blood. Well, there's certain herbs which are also just plants that are also building blood. And in fact, there's really no difference in a sense between herbs and food. We kind of differentiate them here in the West. But in fact, a lot of what I'm talking about, like the actions of the herbs, the properties of the herbs, the tastes of the herbs, all of this can be applied to food as well. It's just food tends to be a little more sweet, a little bit more nourishing, a little bit more building, and taste better. Well, herbs are going to be more condensed, more powerful, and get greater results than just eating the foods. But the same principles apply when understanding food as they are with taking herbs. Another misconception about herbs is that, herbs don't treat specific diseases. You need to really remove that from your head. Many people contact me daily and say, what herb is good for my high blood pressure? What herb is good for my diabetes? Well, herbs are not made to treat diseases, because even that is kind of a basis of a wrong thinking, a kind of an allopathic mentality, looking for a pill, for your condition, or looking for an herb for your condition. This is not the proper way to look at it, because disease is really more than just a bunch of symptoms. And by thinking your disease is, there because you have all these symptoms, is a kind of a misunderstanding of health, because you could have a system in the body not working well and still not have symptoms. And by thinking, oh, I have the symptoms, what do I take for it? This is only looking at trying to eliminate these symptoms, when what we need to really understand is, what are the causes? Why do we have this headache? What is the cause behind my high blood pressure? And there could be many causes behind your high blood pressure. Could be anxiety. It could be a blockage in your arteries. It could be high lipids in your blood. It could be blockages in your kidneys. So how can you answer the question, what herb do I take for my high blood pressure? No, that's the wrong question. The real question is, what is the cause of my high blood pressure? So whatever health condition you have, you should be thinking, what is causing it? What are the underlying systems, organs in my body that are causing it? And some of these causes are going to be your lifestyle habits, your eating habits, your sleeping habits, your exercise, or your lack of, the amount of sunshine you get, the amount of physical activity you get, the amount of time you're spending on a computer. These can be part of your causes. And particularly, of course, your diet and the foods that you're eating may be aggravating. Or in most cases, this is the case. Most people are doing every day something that's contributing to their, condition which they have now. Like, type 2 diabetics, they've been having their soda pop or their sugar in their tea or, for a long time. And this becomes the cause. So if you're going to be concerned about your blood sugar, you don't look for an herb first. You look at the causes. You're snacking, you're having sweets at night and these things. If you're insomniac and you're not sleeping well, it could be because of watching too much TV, too much stress in your life. Your one cup of coffee every morning and your other stimulants, your chocolate you're eating at night. These are part of the causes. So if we only are concerned about symptoms, then we often don't understand when we're really healthy or not. I mean, just because your car's driving down the road doesn't mean that all the systems in the car are working properly. And it's the same for us, So, herbs, on the other hand, have actions, which we're going to cover many of these actions. They have effects. They can stimulate the mind and make us think more, and they can calm the mind and make the mind a little slower. They can stimulate the nervous system. They can support the nervous system and calm the nervous system down. But names of diseases are not what they're treating. They're treating the causes often behind what we label as diseases, but they're not per se treating diseases. So you really need to step away from that allopathic thinking that what herb, what herbal formula, what treatment do I need for my condition. No, somebody has to diagnose you. You have to have a proper understanding of why you have this condition, what systems in the body need to be treated, what actions need to be taken on those systems, and look at your diet that may be aggravating and making these symptoms that you're seeing more intense, that are leading to maybe further health problems, which ultimately could be labeled as a disease. So we want to get away from that thinking of what herb for this disease. This is the number one biggest myth that I see with people who are looking online for herbal remedies, is they're looking for some type of quick fix. And, there's just many different types of a disease. In Ayurveda, diabetes type 2, for example, there's 22 different types because they're treating the causes. So in other words, these types are often based on the different causes. So we're treating the causes, not the symptoms. And this leads me to another common myth that people believe, and it's because of our, exposure to allopathic medication that we have these myths. Because in ancient times, just say over 100 years ago, before there was any allopathic medicine, people had a better understanding of herbs. They needed to be taken slowly over time. One misconception we see today with herbs is that taking more is better. That's not necessarily the case. Low doses over a longer period of time work much better than large doses, and large doses can lead to some adverse side effects like nausea or upset stomach or vomiting or loose motions. So, just taking more of something isn't necessarily means that it's going to be better in terms of herbs. And also just picking one herb, like nowadays people are, moringa is great and everybody's taking moringa. So, moringa is a very heating herb and it can aggravate acid reflux. So whenever you take an herb, you have to know the counter indications. Of course, many herbs would not be suitable during pregnancy or breastfeeding, not so much that would harm the baby during breastfeeding, but many herbs are bitter, and this could make the milk bitter, so it would be counterindicative during breastfeeding. And some herbs are astringent and could restrict the flow of breast milk, so they would be counterindicated. Some herbs are very heating and create strong appetite. And if you have a strong appetite or acidity or burning, then you wouldn't want to take these herbs. So no one herb is suitable for everybody. And in fact, there's no one herb or one formula is the only way to treat, or we could say cure a condition. A Chinese herbalist could use Chinese herbs. A Native American Indian could use Native American herbs. A South American, you could use South American herbs. And an Indian could use Indian herbs. As long as he has access to the herbs and the knowledge of how to use them, then the results can be there. So what's really necessary is the knowledge and the availability of herbs. If you don't have the knowledge of herbs and you're only looking at one herb like turmeric or moringa, then you don't have enough to work with. You don't have enough real knowledge of this herb, and you're really basically just guessing. And we see most people like this looking for their cures by researching 10 best herbs for a certain condition, and then trying to take them all in big doses and not getting the results they expected because the knowledge isn't there of these herbs. And there's many other factors which we're going to cover, like how to take the herb, how much to take the herb, what to take the herb in. We're going to cover that. The other let's say myth of taking herbs is that you could just take them like you do medication with total disregard of your diet and your lifestyle. Herbs aren't that potent. For example, if you're drinking a couple cups of coffee in the morning and you take a sleeping herb or a sleeping tea, in the evening with some hops, barley, passion flower, and, a chamomile and other sedatives and nervine herbs, then you're not going to get great results if you're drinking coffee all day long. So if you're just like if you're trying to lose weight and you're having donuts and snacking on nuts and peanuts and eating cold pizza at night, you can take all the herbs you want for weight loss and you're not going to lose weight. So it's very, very important that the lifestyle has to support it. And this goes almost for every health condition. If you have acidity and heartburn, then you can't have spicy foods, vinegar, tomato sauce, and things that are acidic and are going to create more peptic acids and hydrochloric acids and make your condition worse. Now, the herbs may help, but until you modify your diet and also your lifestyle, then your herbs are not powerful enough to counter these bad dietary guidelines and lifestyle habits, which actually, in most cases, were the cause of the condition in the first place. So I hope that gave you some better understanding of the potential and how to take herbs. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about a few details, because the details are very important. Sometimes people research, like I said, the 10 best herbs for a certain condition, but they don't know the details. The old saying, the devil's in the details, but that's correct in this case. The real knowledge, just to say the knowledge or the wisdom is in the details, which also comes from the experience. So first we want to talk about when to take the herb. When to take the herb is very important. Some herbs need to be taken after meals. These are usually carminative herbs, helping for the digestion, reaching the GI tract. Some herbs need to be taken before the meal, except herbs for like the liver, for example, or for diarrhea need to be taken, or irritable bowel or ulcerative colitis. These generally need to be taken right before the meal. And many people are taking herbs at the wrong time. I think many people know about dandelion, milk thistle, burdock root, kukti, and other liver bitters that are helpful for the liver. But if you're taking it after the meal, these will not be as effective, because it needs to become with the food, need to be digested with the food to be transported to the liver. But if you want to get to, say, the kidneys or the urinary tract or the prostate area, then you don't want to have the herbs with the food, or they're just going to go into the liver, into the general circulation. When you want them going down to the kidney, bladder, urinary tract pathway, and because that's what you're trying to treat. So in that case, you want to take the herbs between the meals with a lot of water, so it flushes down to the urinary tract. Particularly, this is the case with urinary tract infections. So if you have urinary tract infection and you're taking horsetail and Erva Ursi capsules with the meal, you may not get results. But you start taking horsetail and Erva Ursi and parsley tea between the meals and start flushing out the whole urinary bladder system and going to urinating multiple times, then you can find quite quick relief. So even you have the right herb, then of course, if you're taking it at the wrong time, it may not work. And some herbs need to be taken in small little doses, like this little brain herbs here. These are little herbs for improving brain function. And you just take small little doses throughout the day to help the memory and help stimulate the brain. And in fact, we just put them right in the mouth because we don't want to swallow them. We want the herb to, it's a formula, in fact, called Saraswati. We want it to go into the brain. We don't want to drink it with a bunch of water and have it go down into the intestinal system. We're not treating the GI tract. We're not treating the liver. We're not treating the urinary tract. We're not treating the skin. We're trying to have these herbs reach the brain. So they need to be in little small doses with no water, so they stay in this area. Same for, if you're trying to reach the respiratory system. A lot of herbs tend to be in like syrup, like a little syrup, like a ginger syrup or a cough syrup. And that's so the herb goes down the esophagus and can absorb into the respiratory system. And if you drink it with a lot of water, then the herb will just wash right past your respiratory system and get into other systems in the body and not reach the area that you want. And that leads me to the next area is, how to take the herbs. Or we call in Ayurveda, it's the anupana. It's the carrier of the herb, what takes the herb to the right spot, for example, and what balances the herb. For example, sometimes we want the herb to just be in water, hot water, like a tea. Other times, like a building herb or strengthening herb, like, ashwagandha, bala, and these type of herbs that build muscle, that build strength, were best to taken in warm milk. Because milk is also building. It should be raw milk, shouldn't be homogenized and pasteurized. It should be raw milk. And sometimes if the person is very cold by nature, that could be goat milk. Goat milk is more warming than cow milk. Cow milk is cooling by nature, and goat milk's even more building. So if you have a person who's thin, light, cold, and dry, vata prakriti, then you want to strengthen them, we can give them herbs like ashwagandha, bali, vidarikand, and other herbs, but we cook it in warm milk, and this will be more a building and strengthening. And then if certain herbs are also taken in aloe vera. Aloe vera is often used as a carrier because it's cooling, pacifies pitta, reduces heat, reduces inflammation. So a lot of pain herbs that we have, we have like anti-inflammatory herbs here. We're going to go through some of these a little bit and talk about them and what's in them. But this one here, this is like a boswellia extract and curcumin extract. And it's best to be taken with aloe vera because it's anti-inflammatory. And aloe is very cooling and has anti-inflammatory properties. Other herbs like these prashes, this chawan prash, for example, this is in honey and ghee because it's building, supporting the ojas, the immune system. So it should be rich and supportive and building. So honey and ghee combined together. Well, other herbs are in like liquid form that are in fermented. They call them like, fermented formulas. We call them rishtas, but it's basically the herb is fermented. And when it's a little fermented with a little bit of alcohol like that, it rushes right into the body quicker, and absorption is very fast. And there's no need to digest it because that little bit of alcohol and that fermentation actually helps you to digest the herb very quickly. So you have to not only know the right herb, you have to know when to take it, and you have to know what to take it with. This is very, very important. And I see people all the time. Sometimes through research, they've found certain herbs or herbal formulas, but they're not taking it in the proper manner, in the proper dose. So these are the details that are very, very important and often make the whole difference between an herbal formula working and not working. So next we're going to talk about certain qualities of herbs and how herbs are categorized and understood. And we started to mention that when we said earlier that herbs are not made to treat disease. They're treating systems, organs, tissue in the body, and we're learned from the plant or the mineral by its taste, its smell, and its effect when we digest it by what system it's going to work on. So let me give you an example. In Ayurveda, we look at different aspects. We look at the taste of the herb. And this applies to plants and food as well, not just herbs. For example, we got 6 tastes: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. The sweet taste, anything sweet, whether it's, honey or cane sugar, they're going to have a kind of a building effect and a cooling effect, like sugarcane juice and fruit juice. It has a certain cooling effect. So any herb that we have, like we have a formula here called calm and cool, So this is calm, a little calming, and it's also bringing down anger, irritability, frustration, and helping. So it says reduces anxious frustration. So it's cooling. So, and in fact, if we taste this formula, we're going to find, even we taste it, it's got a little bit of a cool, sweet sense to it. There's a sweetness to it, and easy to digest because it's sweet is cooling. Bitter is also cooling. But sour, for example, is heating. Lemons, limes, and they increase appetite, increase digestion. Well, sweet generally reduces appetite and reduces digestion. So, and then there's salty. Salty is also heating, and it's stimulating metabolic activity. And we know salt has a lot of minerals in it. So this is also supporting the metabolic activity, supporting digestion, supporting elimination. We're going to talk a little bit more about these in detail. And then there's pungent, the hottest. This is, the taste like chili, cloves, raw garlic, very stimulating. And then bitter is also cooling, the most cooling. We know herbs like dandelion, burdock root, neem are cooling. And then there's astringent. Astringent taste is, like mangista, red raspberry. Red raspberry leaf we use as a uterine tonic. It's astringent, and it helps the uterus become more healthy by making it more firm in a sense. And so sometimes we want this astringent quality. Well, other times we don't. And you can taste the food, you can taste the herb, taste the herbal formula, and know it's part of its actions, what it's going to do to the body, whether it's going to be heating, cooling, stimulating, calming by the taste. That's one of the factors. So that's why these herbs really need to be tasted. You're going to see here, I'm not talking too much about capsules and pills. And I think this is another myth of taking herbal medicine, believing that, we can just put them all in capsules. I think it's another myth to think that we can just extract the active ingredients from these herbs and think they're going to work just as well. I mean, there's a reason why they're in the whole plant, and just extracting out what we see as the active ingredient may give us some of the results that we had, like curcumin does have anti-inflammatory qualities like turmeric, and it's the extract. But overall, it's the whole herb is going to be more balanced, focusing on creating homeostasis, and just extracts are not the way to go. But that said, like I said a moment ago, we need to taste the herb. The body needs to taste the herb, because when the body tastes the bitter taste, for example, this stimulates bile from the liver. So if you just swallow the capsule, the bitter herbs just for your liver, it's going into the stomach, being broken down by the stomach acids, and the brain isn't aware of this bitterness coming. But when you taste those bitter herbs, then this tells the brain that bitter's coming, tells the brain that sweet's coming, and the body will start to excrete the enzymes or bile that are necessary to digest that herb. So that's why it's much better to be taking herbs in powder form, in tea form, where you can actually taste them, than just putting them in capsules, because the body is responding to these tastes. Like you take carminative herbs, like digestive herbs, and you put them in a capsule, they're not going to work as well as if the body tastes them, like cumin, coriander, ginger, peppermint. These are going to work much better if we're tasting them, sending the signal to the mind that these are carminative herbs that are, and the body will feel that food's coming. They'll start to excrete the digestive enzymes, get the stomach acids going just by the taste. So the next aspect we look for in food and herbs is called the avira, and taste is called rasa in Ayurveda. So we talked about the 6 rasa. Now we're talking about the vira. The vira is like the strength or the power of an herb. How powerful is it? There's generally 8 different viras in Ayurveda: hot, cold, heavy, light, sharp, oily, and dry. But mostly we're looking at the 2 main ones: hot and cooling. Hot increases pitta, heat, and inflammation in the body, and reduces vata and kapha. So, and it kindles the digestive fire, helps to burn ama, helps to burn toxins, and increases the body temperature and promotes circulation. So any herb that's heating, when you taste it, it feels heating. The first taste, right when you first taste it, that's the vira. And if it feels warm, then you know that it's going to have these effects. It's going to help the digestive system, help circulation, and burn off some of the toxins and the mucus that may be in your GI tract. But now if you taste an herb and it's cooling, and a little cooling or sweet or cooling and bitter, then this is going to be more anabolic and promote kind of growth and relieve a burning sensation, inflammation, decrease the body temperature, reduce fevers down, a cooling type of herbs. So that's the vira, the taste that you taste when you first taste the herb or the food. And they say, back to rasa and taste, we in the West, we're tending too much sweet things. Almost all fat, carbohydrates, and protein tend to be sweet. And that's one reason they're very building, strengthening. We like them. But we need more bitter taste in our diet. I think we have enough salty taste with the sodium that's in most packaged foods, and we need more astringent taste, which mostly we can find in like foods like beans, and we need more bitter, which is like in leafy greens, arugula and bitter greens. And a little pungent, little pepper, little spice, little black pepper to help with the digestion. So in fact, it's best to have all 6 tastes in every meal, and this is the most balancing for the body. But by human nature, we tend to like sweet, and we tend to only eat sweets and sweet tasting foods, and then we are lacking these other benefits that come from having bitters to help our liver, for example, or salt to help our nerves and our neurological system, giving us the proper minerals. And when I say lack of salt, I mean not having sea salt or mountain salt or Himalayan salt. Having incomplete or processed salt, which is ionized salt, is incomplete, even though we have the taste. And we also need a little pungent, to help with the digestion, a little black pepper, to help. So the more you have these tastes in each meal, the better. And in fact, for treating people, if you're overweight, we don't want to eat sweet tasting foods. We're going to have more bitter tasting and stringent tasting foods. And the herbs themselves, when you taste weight loss herbs, they're going to be bitter and astringent. When you taste the liver herbs, they're all bitter in taste because the bitter taste is treating and stimulating the liver. So next we talk about what's called the VPAC, the post-digestive effect. There's the first, the taste when you first taste it, the food or the herb, and whether it's heating or cooling, and then the next is the digestive effect. What after it's digested, the final stage of digestion, what takes place in the colon, where and sweet and salty taste generally become like sweet in the colon. Sour, it has a sour VPAC. Bitter and pungent and astringent, kind of a heating VPAC. And this type of sweet, anything sweet with a sweet VPAC or sweet post-digestive effect is going to be anabolic, building muscles, building the body, and promoting the growth of the body. And sour is going to improve digestion and create more metabolic activity and more heat, but also can create loose stools. And then pungent is stimulating, catabolic, reducing in action. So that's why we see for losing weight, you want to have spicy food and bitter. So if you get the weight loss herbs and you taste them, they're very pungent and they're very bitter. So this is why we must taste these herbs, and to understand an herb and a formula, tasting it is very important, and knowing how they affect us. For example, too much pungent herbs can actually reduce our libido. Too much bitter herbs like neem, we've had people taking neem every day and then they have infertility problems because the bitter is too depleting, and it's considered an anti-aphrodisiac, actually reducing down sperm count. So this is very, important to understand. This is the way herbs and herbology is looked at, not in terms of, does it treat this condition. And that means that one person, say with joint pain, can be treated with different herbs because there's different types of joint pain, different causes of joint pain. Some people's joint pain is very inflammatory. It's very hot, and it feels inflamed, and it's hot to the touch, and they like to cool it down, and and not take hot baths. Well, other people, their joints are cracky and painful, and when they take a hot bath, it feels better. So that means you just can't say, oh, take this herb for your joint pain. One, you're probably not treating the cause unless you know what the causes are of the joint pain, which is in Ayurveda, it's like an accumulation of toxins in your joints. And you need to rid or detox these toxins from your joints. That's the real treatment, not just taking analgesic pain-reducing herbs and not feeling the pain anymore. I mean, that's kind of an allopathic approach. But my point is that if somebody's having this hot, inflamed arthritis or joint pain, then we don't want to give them hot and heating herbs. If somebody's having this kind of, they're cold by nature and thin, and their bones are cracking and hurting, and their hands are cold, then, the herbs that are going to help them, whether they're for the pain and treating the cause of the pain, still need to be heating. So same condition can have different treatments based on the individual. In fact, 10 people with a similar joint pain, maybe just taking painkillers, can have completely different herbal treatments, because the herbs are not just focused only on the condition. There's different levels in a formula. One part of the formula is treating the individual's constitution or prakriti or body type, we could call it, whether it's hot, cold, light, dry, heavy, so we're trying to balance the body with one part of the formula. Another part, maybe just for the system that's involved, whether it's high blood pressure, low blood pressure, heart palpitations. There's herbs that are like hawthornberry or arjuna that are just known to support that system in the body. And then there's other herbs that can help with some of the common symptoms of that condition. Like with diabetes, we have a lot of neuropathy, and there can be some herbs in diabetes formula that are just helping to relieve this neuropathy by addressing the nervous system and the circulation system. And then only maybe the fourth level, we could say, of the formula would be treating that specific imbalance in, say, the organ, like the liver. Your liver can be fatty, congested, like a kapha with blockage and fatty liver and cholesterol. It could be inflamed, where there's heat and burning, and redness in the face and pain and tenderness when you're feeling the liver, and an aversion to fried foods, spicy foods, hot foods. And there could be like cirrhosis of the liver, where the liver's like hardening and it's hard to the touch, and its cells are literally dying. So, even though that's both having liver problems, and liver enzymes may not be good in a type of blood test, but in Ayurveda, we're treating the actual cause of this liver dysfunction. And the herbs can be specific for that cause, but they also have to be specific just to support the liver. They have to be specific for maybe the digestion and of fat in general, which will help support the liver, and also specific to the individual. So that's how you create a formula, not just, take dandelion for your liver problems, but there could be 5 or 6 other herbs, some of which aren't even specifically for liver function, but work well together for that individual. Well, the next person coming with a liver problem may have some of the similar herbs, but not exactly the same formula. So I know it's a big subject, but I wanted to give you a good idea of, the sophisticatedness of herbology, and how important it is to understand these herbs and take them in their natural sense, and to take them in the proper way that they should be taken, and not just be putting them in capsules and having them after foods and taking just extracts without any real knowledge of the proper way to use these. So next, let's talk about the different forms that herbs can be in, because most people are just thinking of herb tea or maybe herb capsules. And of course, we have a lot of teas, but we also have these, what I showed earlier, rishtas. And these are herbs in like a fermented wine. We have many of these, heart tonic, brain tonic, lung tonic, reproductive system tonic. And tonic is building, supporting that system. And we'll just keep going with the brain here. We have another one, brain oil. Brain oil. And this oil here is used for stress reduction, and it's helping with sleep, and it's calming. And we can see, we got Brahmi in here, a little Saraswati, and in sesame oil. And this oil can be put right under the nose. It's a sesame oil with nervine herbs, basically, particularly Brahmi, right under the nose. And here you can put a little bit on your temples here, help relax. You can put it on the feet of a child to help them relax. And also we have another type of, it's called nasa. It's also brain oil, also using this one particularly with Brahmi. And it's got, let's see here, it's also called brain oil. There we go. And there we go. And you put it in your nose, a couple drops, because to reach the brain, one of the best ways is through the nostrils. You just bend over. So we'll put it right up there. We can keep my brain going during this talk here. Just a couple drops. Very nice, very nice. And that will go right to the head, and it's kind of slow acting, very soothing. We use this particular, we call it brain oil, but these are using Brahmi, which is good for attention deficit, improving memory, focus, mental cognition. And the tonic, though, is rushing into the system much quicker. You feel it right away. As soon as you take a little gulp, you'll feel a little sharp right away. Well, the oil is more gentle and more slow acting. And I mentioned Saraswati earlier, and that's Saraswati in its pure form. It's just a powder form. This is an ancient formula. Saraswati means goddess of knowledge, and the formula is a couple thousand years old. And it's got many herbs in it, maybe 26 or 25. And you can just take little pinches of it, and you feel it right away. So that's another form. We mentioned prashas. This is like a Brahmi Rasayana. And this is, we're all talking about kind of the same treatment, treating the brain, using Brahmi as a main premier brain herb in its different forms. And this is in a prash, in a jelly that's got honey and other herbs in it, and ghee. And this is very nice for children, very like slow release, slow acting. You could give a child 1 teaspoon of it in the morning. They'll have more calm, better concentration, help with attention deficit issues. And here's herbs. Here's some of the similar herbs, but they're in ghee. This one's in ghee, brain ghee, and this is good for short and long-term memory, good for the adrenals. So you have the same herbs, but they're in different vehicles. So let's understand why. If you have somebody who's very dry, very depleted, and very malnourished, then we give them the herb in the ghee, Vata Prakriti. If somebody's kind of heavy, slow, sluggish, not responding well, and they're overweight, we don't want to give them the herbs in ghee. Then we give it to them in this kind of like fermented form, where it will be stronger, will rush into the system quicker. And also, there's, we can drink it in a tea. We have memory and energy tea here. I'm using some Western herbs there, as you see, ginkgo, some green tea, Denrao green tea, Gota Cola, good for circulation. Ginkgo, one of the oldest plants in the world. Little peppermint, little elethro for your energy, sage, rosemary, and ginger. Improves overall circulation and improves cognitive function. I drink it every day. I'm buzzing on it right now. It's a nice tea. You definitely feel it. Not quite as stimulating as a cup of coffee, but definitely keeps you going. And again, that may not be suitable for everybody. If you say you have anxiety or nervousness, you can't be having a tea with elethro in it. No, if you have anxiety and nervousness, then you're going to be doing much, and you're sensitive and underweight, you're going to do much better with the herbs and ghee than you are in a kind of a tea or alcohol fermented sense. So even we have the tea here, Brahmi tea. And Brahmi tea is based on the ancient formula of brain tea, based on Brahmi. And there you are, the ginkgo, Gota Cola, sage, lemon balm, rosemary, and ginger. Now, the difference between the Brahmi, our brain tea, and the memory tea is the memory tea has some stimulants in it, some green tea and some elethro. Elethro is called Siberian ginseng. So if you have a slow, heavy, sluggish person who has no problem sleeping, then we can give them the memory and energy tea. But if we have a more sensitive person, a little anxiety, but they're having memory problems and they're not sleeping well, we don't want to give them that stimulating formula. We give them the more calming formula, what they call the brain ghee. And if they're very sensitive then and dry and depleted, then like I said, we could give it to them right in ghee. And so many forms. And of course, herbs can also come in sprays. This is rose oil, rose water, rose oil in there. So that's an herb, rose, but it's in a spray form, in a mist form, just like essential oils. We have pure Roman chamomile, frankincense, and other herbs and essential oils too. Now, you can use them, of course, in aromatherapy. And when you inhale the scent of an herb, like in the sense of essential oils, then it's going to go right into the brain, right into the respiratory system, and it's a nice way to affect the mood. But their effect is very short term, very short. It only will affect you for a very short time, and the effect is gone. Well, when you take it in a prosh, it's going to help you all day. 1 teaspoon, and it'll be like time released all day. And in a ghee, also, it's going to be time released and slow. So there's many advantages. Some things can be taken in capsules. Like these are made of sulfur, the hot sulfur baths, help. We have sulfur, purified sulfur. We use it for fever, skin conditions, UTIs, headaches, nerve conditions, immunity, and it's fine in a capsule. It doesn't need to be drinking, or put in oil form. So, and then there's Shilajit. I'm sure many people have heard of Shilajit. We call them energy capsules here, energy tabs, but it's, they're high in minerals, and they remove fatigue, and they rejuvenate the body, and useful in many conditions, and it's Shilajit. Of course, there's many different qualities of Shilajit, just like there's many different qualities of herbs. So, not all peppermint's the same, not all cannabis is the same, not all Shilajit is the same. There's many grades of good and bad. So just because you have an herb doesn't mean that you have a high quality herb. I mean, many people said, oh, I tried taking chamomile, it didn't get me to sleep. Well, it just, store-bought chamomile is going to be of lower quality than, somebody who's, buying it off of an importer who's importing chamomile from 4 or 5 different countries, and we can choose which chamomile we want. Like a lot of my Indian herbs are flown in from India to keep them fresh, certified organic. So this is a much higher quality than just picking up herbs even in India or in the health food store. We don't know how long they've been on the shelf, or where the source is, or where the certification papers are, where the testing is. We don't know anything about this history of this herb, or even how old it is, and what country it may have came from. People say, oh, I've had saffron. I go, where'd you get your saffron from? Oh, I got saffron from Mexico. Well, Mexico has a very high quality herbs and products, but saffron, it's not known to have the best. The good saffron is generally considered from Morocco or Iran. Even Spanish saffron is not considered as good as Moroccan saffron. So if you go online, you can say, oh, I found some cheap saffron. Well, that really means you're probably buying from a source that's just not known to be having the highest quality. Even frankincense. I mean, there's Indian frankincense, there's Omani frankincense, and most people who know herbs well know that frankincense from Oman is superior than the frankincense from India. So quality is a big factor. Even Indians who come do appointments with me say, wow, your ashwagandha really feels good. I was taking ashwagandha capsules I bought in the Indian shop, and I hardly felt anything. But I'm taking 1 teaspoon of yours with a little warm milk in the day, and I'm feeling nice energy, great stamina, libido's back, all from 1 teaspoon. Your ashwagandha is way different than what I was getting in India. Well, now you know why. 1, it was probably old. It's probably of low quality. They were taking it the wrong way. They weren't probably taking enough with their 1 little capsule, and it was of low grade. So this is the difference between taking herbs properly and not having them done in a right way. Also, there's gugulus, or resins, we can call them. Frankincense is in fact a resin, and this is gugulu resin, and it's black. It's a resin from the tree, just like frankincense is. This is a frankincense extract, actually. We call it shilaki, and that's an actual extract, even though earlier I said that, don't advocate extracts. But there are a few cases where it tends to be quite effective. For example, turmeric extract, curcumin. We get these little 4-ounce bag for $45, a pound at $160 of curcumin extract. And shilajit, which is frankincense. We also use the extract. And we put the two together, but we still put turmeric, good quality turmeric. There's many grades of turmeric coming from many different countries. I know where my turmeric's coming from. I know how old it is, and I have the papers on it based on the importer that it has been tested and it's fresh. And even when you get to know herbs, you can taste it. You can know the proper taste of fresh herbs over low quality herbs. And that's another reason we don't use anything in capsules, because we cannot taste it, we cannot inspect it, we cannot see it. And we make a formula here, anti-inflammatory formula. Yep. For systemic inflammation, including intestinal inflammation, as boswellia extract, and there's frankincense, which is another name for frankincense, amlaki, and there's curcumin extract, but there's also the turmeric itself. So we want the whole plant. We just put in a little bit of the extract in as well, just to make it more effective, so it works even better. And, really, turmeric isn't used much in Ayurveda as much as we believe it's a cure for everything, even though it has all these properties as antibacterial, antifungal, antihistamine qualities, antiviral, etc., anti-inflammatory. But it's kind of weak in that sense, which means it's good for regular use. And it's in very few Indian formulas, and mostly used in like allergy formulas for respiratory allergies or food allergies. So more looking for its antihistamine and its anti-allergenic type of qualities more than its pain-reducing qualities. We use it a little bit. People like to see it, I suppose, but we're using mostly the shilajit, or the boswellia, I call it, or frankincense in English. This is 10 times more effective than turmeric if you have inflammation in the body. So, but the curcumin extract definitely is quite powerful. And many people have said, well, they were taking like 4 or 5 tablespoons a day of turmeric, and they only take, 1 teaspoon of my formula, and it dropped their pain much more than their 5 tablespoons of turmeric. So there's much more effective ways of treating these conditions, both instead of just using turmeric for everything. There's no one herb for everything. And even though turmeric has a lot of great properties, they're not very strong, and it's not used much in Ayurveda, except mostly in cooking. So you don't want to think one herb is going to be like a cure-all. So that said, so we have many different forms, and you can see most of my forms here are in powder form. And powder form is in powder form because it's easy to digest, and more long-lasting. For example, we have the tea, relaxing tea, which we showed up there with the lemon balm, skullcap, motherwort, and lavender. And it's very nice, very relaxing, tastes very good, and it'll last for an hour or two, and you'll be a little relaxed. But the calming formula, where you're actually ingesting the herb, much more effective. It says reduces nervousness, anxiety, supports the nervous system. And here you have some of the similar herbs, but these are Indian herbs: Jatamatsi, Shankpushpi, Lil Targar, Brahmi, which we've talked about, and there's ashwagandha, which people are hearing about. And all together, when you ingest the herb, it's going to be much more effective, particularly when you come to something like sleep. The sleeping tea, it's got nervines and sedatives in it, but it's light. People are not sleeping too well, that works. But if you're really insomniac, then you better just to get the powder and ingest the herbs. And when you consume the herbs, they're going to be 10 times more effective than if you just have a tea. So teas are very light. And if you notice, I didn't talk much about tinctures. Ayurveda doesn't use tinctures. You can't, tincture, you're taking too much away of the natural properties of the herb. For example, ashwagandha, it's a very building herb, or like shatavari, it's coming from like a root, of asparagus. It's a root of a plant, just ground up powder, and we're consuming it. And it's very cooling, very soothing. It's supporting the reproductive system, helping with build more semen, bringing down hot flashes and heat in the body, supporting hormonal issues both for men and women. But in an extract, you've taken out all these qualities. It's not going to work. How's an extract and alcohol going to be building? How's an extract and alcohol going to build semen? Yeah, and somebody just asked me here, what's the best way to consume ashwagandha? Traditionally, you consume ashwagandha in warm milk. I even had this one little book sitting up here. Just wanted to show you. This is Ayurvedic medicine. These are traditional formulas. All these formulas are very old. And if we go look at these formulas, like we look at Triphala, people know Triphala, and we've talked about Guggulu. So there's Triphala Guggulu right here. There's the herbs in it, and there's how it's used. There's the counter indications, when not to use, what to use it for, how to take it. It says take with warm water 2 or 3 times a day. So these instructions are already here. And if we go look up, the traditional books on ashwagandha, then we can see that it's mostly recommended to have in milk. And somebody says they love turmeric golden milk, and that's good because ashwagandha should be in some fat, and that's why you want it in the milk. It says is the fat. You wouldn't want to do ashwagandha in no fat milk because you miss the whole point. It's the fat is helping for the effects to be more balancing. And sometimes we don't know why the traditional Indians or practitioners in a traditional way did it in certain ways, but this is the way they did it to get the best results. And if we deviate from that by being creative ourselves or thinking up our own ideas, or nowadays modern scientists come up with their own ideas, then we deviate from what has been working, or what I call empirical knowledge. Another good example here. So yeah, keep taking your turmeric milk at night. That's very, very nice. And it should be warm. It should be warmed up, by the way, not cold. And we look at a simple issue like gas and bloating. We can see we have 3 different groups of herbs to treat gas and bloating. This one, Vata digestive tea. This is for improves gas and bloating before and after meals. And there you see the peppermint, cumin. These are called carminative herbs. Cumin, ginger, fennel, cinnamon, ajwain. And this is for a person who's cold by nature, getting a lot of gas and bloating. But if a person who's kind of hot and sweaty and can't be doing black pepper and ginger and all that, then they have gas and bloating, then we give them different herbs that are more cooling: spearmint, fennel, coriander, little cumin, and little cinnamon and cardamom. And if a person's very heavy, overweight, and no appetite, not hungry at all, then we may have to even stimulate the digestion a little bit and use stronger, more pungent herbs, like more ginger, more cumin, more cinnamon, fenugreek, and clove and black pepper. But you see some of the same herbs are in there because those carminative herbs like cumin and a little ginger, cinnamon, they help with the digestion. But we mix them with other herbs to make them work better for that particular individual. So it's these actions of herbs that we're looking at. What are the actions of the herbs? Well, someone said that, can they have some of these herbs that if they don't drink milk? Well, milk isn't for everybody. Many people have trouble digesting milk. But a lot of times they give herbs in yogurt and water. A lot of people nowadays are saying, oh, all dairy is bad. But, it's just because they're having trouble digesting it. Somebody just asked me, what's the Ayurvedic perspective on essential oils? Well, essential oils, didn't exist to a very large degree in ancient times. They did have some like rose and frankincense, and some of these they did extract. They were capable of it. But they're not used that much. And even though I have a shelf full of essential oils and I use them in infusers, I use them in, humidifiers like eucalyptus essential oil and a humidifier to reach the environment, to reach the respiratory system. Use lavender in the office to help to create a certain a feeling of sweetness and the flowers and to keep people calm in the environment. But the potency isn't there, and people who believe that they can treat all health conditions with essential oils are really fooling themselves, because any good herbalist really needs a wide range of herbs in different forms to treat different people, and essential oils are really not that potent, even though they can be quite useful and pleasant. But most people with serious health conditions are going to be getting herbs like in a powder form. Like, it's hard to lose weight with an essential oil. I mean, how's essential oil going to lose weight? Even at herbal extract, it's not strong enough to even really work that well to lose weight, to clear the lymph, to detox the colon. In these cases, you're going to need a powder. And we have so many different powders, even for pain. We don't have a tea for pain. We have some oils for pain that we can put directly on it, topical. But again, we have the formulas. Once you get in a formula, you're ingesting the herb. This one is for pitta pain, nerve pain, rheumatoid pain, joint pain. And there's the Guguloos. Nurgundi is an analgesic herb. Tagar is also analgesic and sedative. And you can even see at the bottom, I have a few options I check. I may tell a person to take it in hot milk if they're vata and depleted, ginger tea if they're heavy, even add a little castor oil if they're constipated, or just some almond milk in certain cases. So even I have the formula, I still may change how they take it by the individual. That's why I have those little checkoff boxes. And this pitta pain, this is for somebody who has more rheumatoid, more heat, more burning. Well, this one here, that one was vata, I'm sorry. This one is the pitta one. And this one is for more muscle pain, joint pain. We treat fibromyalgia with it. And here, sometimes we have people take it with water, aloe vera, or even some coconut milk. So because we want cooling substances. This is the one for, heat and burning pain. Well, the other one is for a different type of pain. So even the type of pain will determine the type of herb. So, this is the way that herbology works. Of course, I'm teaching courses in this in India, and I encourage everybody who wants to take herbs to study it with a teacher, to become more knowledgeable and to not haphazardly, take these herbal products, and try to understand the herbs, not in terms of and the formulas, not in terms of what disease they are, but understand each individual herb one at a time, and then later on understand them as formulas. And if you noticed, I'm giving all these teas and oils and churnas or powders and rishtas and the tonics and the wine formula and the ghees. They're almost all formulas. Very rarely does an herbalist use a single herb. I mean, there are some premium herbs that can just be used individually. But when you use an individual herb, you really have to know what you're doing. You really have to know the herb. It's more like a kind of a sniper direct approach where you just know perfect. But mostly formulas are going to be better. And when you take, say, for blood sugar, we can drop a blood sugar very fast with our traditional Ayurvedic blood sugar formula right out of the book that I just showed you right there that they had thousands of years ago. And it's about 12 different herbs. They're all bitter in taste, and they all individually would help to lower blood sugar. Some of them are like medi, fenugreek, or bitter melon, neem. Some of these bitter herbs we know help with, and some of them you may be familiar with, like those. But they don't rely on one. They get all like a group, 8, 10, 12 herbs that have similar action, in this case, blood sugar lowering, supporting the pancreas. Some of them have various degrees, like helping with insulin, helping to stimulate the pancreas, lower the blood sugar. And there's often other little supporting herbs in there as well, like may help with nerve pain or neuropathy. And they're all put in a formula. And that formula works like magic. Well, if you take any of the individual herbs, you only get minimal effects. So really serious conditions, chronic health conditions need formulas. And most of these formulas have already been designed. Chinese herbalists have books of these formulas. Ayurvedic herbalists have books of these formulas already made. So there's no need to invent new formulas, no need to think of what works or research what works. If you're researching, you're learning. What you want to do is you want to learn from those who have already treated these conditions and know what works. And that's why we research and we study Ayurveda and other Ayurvedic doctors who have been successful in using these type of herbs. So again, I hope that helped you to have more understanding of how to take herbs. And if you're my client and you're taking some of these herbs and they taste bitter or they taste terrible, or now you know why that bitter taste is actually good for you. And putting it on capsule always isn't such a good idea. Taking it in tincture may not work at all. And sometimes when you just go out and buy the herb off the shelf, it may not give you the same effect because the quality. So it's many, many important things. And when you start to learn herbs, then you should learn them by the actions that you want. Like carminative herbs are good for digestion, absorption, assimilation. Herbs like ajwain, coriander, cumin, fennel, ginger, haritaki, parsley, peppermint, even salt, are herbs that are, for fatigue or for weakness. This would include like ashwagandha, bali, ghee, ginseng, shatavari, vidarikand, herbs that are used for breaking things down, like gallbladder stones, kidney stones. These are like castor oil, chikrot, ajwain, dandelion root, gravel root we use for kidney stones, kukti, senna we've heard of. These are powerful herbs that are known to break things down. So they're used in combination with other herbs that will support that system. So say you have an herb that, like kukti or senna or bumamalaki that's good at breaking things down and dissolving things, but you want it to go break down gallbladder congestion or gallbladder stones, and you're going to have to mix it with other herbs and take it before the meal. But if you want it to break down your kidney stones, then you're going to have to take it in water with some other herbs like gokshura, parsley, nettle that will support the kidney, bladder, urinary tract system. See? So you have one herb that's good at breaking things down, but you're going to combine it with other herbs and take it in a certain way to reach the goal that you want. Okay? Well, I'm up to my time. I hope you learned from that. It was a big subject, but I am very passionate about herbalism. I was studying Western herbs in the 70s, and some of these herb formulas I have today, like memory tea, PMS tea, I gave to people in my teenage years, and I'm still using these formulas today. And then in the 80s, of course, I went to India and started studying Indian herbs, and I really stuck then with Ayurvedic knowledge because it's the most documented, it's the most clear, and I'm very traditional and conservative guy by nature, and I like to follow what's been done in the past, what's worked in the past, what people did in the past, and then I find herbalists in India, which is what I've been doing since the 80s, and I still continue to travel to India every year and learn the same way, and that's find Indian doctors who are willing to teach me, and then I learn what they're treating, and I'm finding Indian doctors who are treating all kinds of health conditions that we consider uncurable here, and they're curing them on a daily basis there, like ulcerative colitis and cancer and ITP and other very complex conditions. They're treating them on a regular basis. And the only way really to learn how to treat these conditions is find the doctor who's successfully treating it and study with him for some period of time to better understand how he's doing it and all the variations. I know I went to India and I had a very good teacher of mine, Dr. Vikram Chauhan in Chandigarh, very successfully treating ulcerative colitis. And he told me that they sent people from Stanford University to his office to understand what he was doing. And I've been going to his office, spending days and days with him for years and years. And it took me that long to get good at this particular condition, seeing many, many patients that he's treating and seeing the variations of the formulas, a lot of the same herbs and different formulas and different support. And but the people from Stanford University only stayed a short time, and they left, he said, in frustration because they were just looking for some kind of, one herb, one formula type of approach, and they didn't get that, and they left. And so, unfortunately, the medical world, is looking for these quick fixes, and many people are looking for quick fixes, but this is often not the case. I showed you a lot of herbs here about brain function, but say we had somebody with dementia, we may give them multiple treatments besides changing the diet and the lifestyle. We may give them brain tea to drink all day. We may give them the brain herbs to put in their nostrils in the morning. We may give them, the brain tonic to have with their tea, or have 2 teaspoons in the morning. And we may give them some after their memory improves and we don't want it to slip again. We may give them this Brahmi Rasiana, which is like nourishing for the brain. So we may give them 4 or 5 different products with different herbs addressing the same condition. And a different person, we may give a different group of products for the same condition, and variations in the dosage and many other variations in every single individual for every treatment. So it's more like an art, at a certain point, I mean, like a musician, you have to learn all the scales, you have to memorize it, but at the end of the day, you're not thinking scales. You have to go with your heart, you have to feel it, and you have to know these herbs, and you have to feel how they are. And when you look at an ingredients of herbs, you should be able to feel what action it's going to take on the body, whether it's going to be heating, cooling, whether it's going to help which systems in the body, and just by looking at the ingredients. So you can't take these herbs blindly. You have to, have this deep feel. And some of these formulas that I have are actually formulas in formulas, and they could be hundreds of herbs. This formula here for mood balancing, for example, is just 3 herbs. Jyotismachi, which is good for depression, Shankpushpi, which is good for irritability, and Brahmi, which is good for anxiety. We put them all together, and this was taught to me by an Indian doctor. It's good for balancing the mood. But other formulas could be like this one, Cool Head. Is for anger, irritability. Look, rose petals and pearl powder. Pearl, it's not even a plant. It's powdered pearl, very cooling, very sweet, helps with irritability and anger. And other formulas can have formulas in formulas. Like if we look at this pain formula again, we can see one of the ingredients is Yogaraj Gugulu. Well, that's another formula, which 15, 16 herbs. So there's 20, 30 herbs here. Some of these formulas have 50, 60 herbs in them because they're formulas in formulas. They're very complex. So somebody's saying they need that for their anger, So again, you have to look at your whole diet, your whole lifestyle. If you're, you have to, certain foods can increase anger. Too much red meat, too much spicy food, things like that can also make us more hot-tempered. So again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you learned. I hope I inspired you to study herbs, to look at herbs as a healthy way to maintain your health and to treat your health conditions in a natural way. And I'll stay online for a little bit and answer any of your personal questions. And once again, my sincere hope that you learn from this and you feel more motivated to treat yourself and care for yourself and your loved ones with these natural means of herbal medicine, which is, I think, a great achievement of humankind, which we often ignore. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.